Well, what I'm seeing is that it was a tragedy. I mean, it's absolutely. I wish it never happened. I think we could all agree on that. But it's really what's happening. It's like we step back, and now where we've brought that to. As a Democrat, when I arrived in the Senate back in 23, it was very clear to me that we are failing at our border. And if you look at the kinds of things that we've had, this has started to happen. This is from the New York Times. That's encounters at our border, and it was skyrocketing. And it's like that's unsustainable. When you reach almost 300,000 people, that's unsustainable, and we need to. As a Democrat, right. It shouldn't be unreasonable to want to secure our border and do it in that way. And now let's also talk about ICE. Now, absolutely, again, what happened in Minneapolis was absolutely tragic. And then now, if you think. Now, this is from the Washington Post. This is the latest statistics. These are people that ICE now are no, it's like now 67% have criminal charges, pending ones, or that. So that's more than
right.
2/3. The people now there are some people that aren't involved in any kinds of illegal things, but so me, I think two things can be true. Round up all the criminals, deport them. They shouldn't have ever been here, and they definitely have to go. And now right. I want to see more and more things happening in Minneapolis now too. So two things must be true. And I strongly reject the extreme on either side, about this now. So we must be true. And, I watched you earlier in your show. You just pointed out President Obama deported, millions of people, and there wasn't having the same kind of outrage here, here is from Democrats.
Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up, because what you're about to hear is nothing short of a political earthquake ripping through the heart of the Democratic Party. Democrat, well, at least for now, a Democrat, but Senator John Fetterman drops brutal warning on Tim Walz and as rioters burn Minneapolis. And so you see, we've got John Fetterman. Yes, folks, that John Fetterman, the hulking, hoodie-wearing senator from the battleground powerhouse of Pennsylvania, going rogue on Fox News, ditching the party line and straight up calling out his own side for fumbling the border crisis like a greased football. This isn't just some backbench rebel. This is a sitting U.S. senator from the state that could decide the next presidency. But remember, folks, no Pennsylvania, no White House. It's the keystone, the kingmaker, the must-win for anyone dreaming of Oval Office glory. But ladies and gentlemen, Fetterman lays it out raw, and he leaves the left shaking in their boots and clutching their pearls after his recent appearance on the Will Cain show on Fox News, and he doesn't mince words as he fires off the first shots and says, the border's a disaster zone. Encounters skyrocketing to unsustainable levels, 300,000 a month, people. He slams Democrats for failing to secure it since he hit the Senate in 2023. And get this, because this might just very much be the most absolute best part about it all, but he's defending ICE, pointing to stats from the Washington Post showing 2/3 of folks on their radar have criminal charges. And yeah, he's right. Or at least, let me know if you think he's right with a quick show of your thumbs up for, as he says, and I quote, rounding up the criminals to deport them, he says. No ifs, ands, or buts. America First is country over party, and we aren't playing these political games of theatrics and partisan script reading. John Fetterman is his own man and a man of the people. He's rejecting the extremes of both sides, but let's be real. This is a guy who was once the darling of the progressive left, now sounding like he's auditioning for a spot in the MAGA camp. He calls out former President Obama and him deporting millions without the dim outrage we're seeing now. This, my friends, is the death blow for the Democrats as we know them. Cracks turning into craters. Fetterman's not just whispering dissent, he's shouting it on enemy territory. Fox News, of all places. If a key player like him is breaking ranks on the hottest issues, border security, crime, immigration, the party's fracturing from within. But wait, there's more, so much more. Stick with me here. And as always, thank you for subscribing for more of the truth that you all know that is exactly what I deliver to you each and every show. You all subscribing really does help out a lot, and I appreciate you. And so you see, Pennsylvania's voters are watching, and with Fetterman echoing America First vibes, it's a sign the blue wall is crumbling. We can smell the blood in the water. MAGA's on the move. We've taken the offensive, and this, folks, is a mandate. But a word to the left and a brutal warning before it may be too late, and they launch more of their radical experiments. The party is done, finished, over. This is proof positive. The Democrats are losing ground, losing control, and if they don't wake up, they've already lost the plot. Trump wins. We win. America First surges back, and we reclaim the future of this great nation, possibly even redrawn with newly updated borders. Granted, this is a satirical and some sort of humorously wishful thinking, but I don't know. There may be some viability to this here, shared by Wall Street Mav, and a proposed new border with Canada where we take Alberta and Canada gets Minnesota. I mean, crazier things could happen, right? Greenland?
There was a time about 100 years ago when the United States military knew exactly who the real enemy was, and it wasn't Russia and it wasn't China. It was Britain. In the 1920s, the U.S. military developed something called War Plan Red, a detailed contingency plan for war with the British Empire, with Canada as Britain's proxy. And right now, Donald Trump is dusting off a modern version of that same plan. Now, if you're watching the mainstream media, they're telling you Trump is recklessly threatening our alliances with his demands about Greenland. And Britain's premier foreign policy outlet, Chatham House, is now saying this about the United States. European leaders will remain concerned about Europe's ability to defend itself with a more unpredictable and even hostile U.S. And Chatham House also reported that in December, Denmark's military intelligence service classified the United States as a security risk for the first time. But here's what they're not telling you. Trump isn't threatening our alliances. He's ending 80 years of British control over American foreign policy. And he's doing it by reviving the strategic clarity that our military once had when they created War Plan Red.
And by the way, I'm a fan of Denmark too, I have to tell you, and you know, they've been very nice to me. I'm a big fan, but you know, the fact that they had a boat land there 500 years ago doesn't mean that they own the land. I'm sure we had lots of boats go there also.
Back with the breaking news in our politics lead, a source telling CNN that the Justice Department is investigating Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, both Democrats, allegedly for obstructing law enforcement. Moments ago, I received a statement from Governor Walz. It says, quote, 2 days ago it was Alyssa Slotkin. Last week it was Jerome Powell. Before that, Mark Kelly. Weaponizing the justice system and threatening political opponents is a dangerous authoritarian tactic. The only person not being investigated for the shooting of Renee Good is the federal agent who shot her, unquote. And a source in Governor Walz's office also tells me that they have not been notified of anything. My panel is here. Archie, your reaction?
I think it's troubling, but it is a pattern that we have seen, and in some ways, it feels like it's Governor Walz and the mayor have really been upset about not being kind of read into this investigation. So it's almost like a strong offense is a good defense. And so we see the Trump administration going after these folks because they really want a seat at the table on something that they are at the front lines of in terms of the shooting.
Person familiar tells me that Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and the Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey are both being investigated by the Justice Department. And a grand jury has issued subpoenas for both of them, though it doesn't appear that either have been served yet. What we do know tonight as we come on the air is that the Justice Department investigation centers on possible obstruction of federal law enforcement. Both the FBI Director Kash Patel and the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche were in Minneapolis today. And just a short time ago, Todd Blanche was on Fox News explaining or attempting to explain why the Justice Department is taking this action.
When the governor or the mayor threaten our officers, when the mayor suggests that he's encouraging citizens to call 911 when they see ICE officers, that is very close to a federal crime.
I still have not heard a single case in this search where someone who was a criminal, undocumented, being picked up from the street.
Create the environment and then you complain about the consequences. When you kick over a beehive, don't complain when the bees come after you.
Every single one of those
poke
people
a bear, don't say, I can't believe the bear's chasing me.
You have a right to stand there and yell at
That's not what we were talking about. We're talking about you guys are deliberately creating an environment so that there is chaos. And when there is chaos, you go, oh my God, someone gets hurt. What do you expect in chaos?
They're trying to create chaos?
Yes.
What they're the ICE officers.
These organizations desire chaos.
Going in and
how naive are you?
And it wouldn't be you wouldn't have this chaos.
She is insufferable, isn't she? Jessica Tarlov and Ilhan Omar. But every time Crystal Ball and Jessica Tarlov jump in and to defend an illegal alien, the individual ends up being a child molester. Or how about, I don't know, a Latin Kings gang member? Raul Gutierrez, who was just arrested for stealing an FBI rifle and body armor during Minneapolis riot. This is who the left fights for over law-abiding Americans. But I want you to take a good look at these people because they're just as big a problem, if not greater, than the illegal criminals themselves. And is it just me, or does anybody else have serious Minnesota fatigue right now? But also, on a purely gratuitous note, Jessica Tarlov is a retard. Dare I say, an even bigger retard than Tim Walz. And I have had endless conversations with too many people to recall, but they are all saying Tim Walz should cut a deal because there's no way they just wouldn't be going after him like this if they didn't have the goods. And you must admit, things are dire when even CNN has their most handsome anchor, Caitlin Collins, seen here, and he or she is reporting the facts. CNN has just sent the entire Democratic Party into a tailspin. Well, CNN and Senator John Fetterman, it seems, after breaking that Tim Walz and Jacob Frey are reportedly under investigation by the DOJ. The blatant obstruction and impediment that they encourage and assist in are, in fact, crimes. And now it's only a matter of time before Trump delivers and satisfies the overwhelming request to lock them up. And so you see, a federal grand jury has issued subpoenas to Tim Walz and Mayor Jacob Frey in investigation into ICE interference. This is it, folks. Now it is time to set an example. This is it, everyone. They have messed up big time.
Breaking tonight, Fox News confirms the Justice Department is investigating Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey for allegedly impeding law enforcement efforts on the ground. Again, confirming that DOJ investigation. Progressive Democrats, meantime, were in Minneapolis today, rallying around protesters, claiming the Trump administration is to blame for the chaos. The remarks from Congresswoman Ilhan Omar and Pramila Jayapal come after another night of disorder in Minneapolis.
Yeah, and they're all criminals, but you know what they say, when it comes to domestic terrorism, nobody does it like a Democrat.
Hey, I'm here with Governor Tim Walz in Minnesota. We are so excited that we have 28 members of Congress from all over the country here to stand up with you, Governor. You have been such a strong champion to say that what is happening in Minnesota is absolutely not right. Tell us.
Well, Congresswoman, thank you. And to everybody out there across the country, thank you for standing with Minnesota. We're here today in beautiful, peaceful St. Paul, a place that we care for our neighbors, we care for everyone. This assault that we're seeing is traumatic, but what I keep telling Minnesotans, we're not alone in this fight. We're on the right side of justice, the right side of history. Please keep thinking of Minnesota. Send us your thoughts, prayers, and any help you can. And a huge thank you to members of Congress who are actually doing the job. In a few short months, this will be Madam Chair, and we'll start straightening this country out.
Let's do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Grateful.
Thank you.
They're all commies, but here's a public service announcement. Never vote for or trust, but definitely do not vote for a guy wearing a quarter zip with a sport coat. That's rule number one. But we don't need to wait months for another traitor to become Madam Chair, because if it were up to me, I'd send her ass packing and she wouldn't be a U.S. citizen anymore. Call it what you want. Discrimination, racism, whatever. I'm all for that shit. And any Democrat who wants to defend the worst of the worst, like Tim Walz, yeah, they can get the out too. The only remedy is for people like this to suffer greatly at the hands of the criminals they defend. The losses must be staggering and irreparable sometimes. Even then, that won't cure their suicidal empathy. But oh, the irony of having to wear an eye patch for the rest of your life because you decided to fight ICE on behalf of Somali pirates is proof of God's unrivaled sense of humor. And you wouldn't have this chaos, honestly, and a very well said share here with this next clip, and how if you live in a blue city, please understand that ICE did not bring chaos to your city. Chaos brought ICE to your city.
So if you live in a blue city, please understand that ICE did not bring chaos to your city. Chaos brought ICE to your city. Open borders created the mess. Sanctuary policies enabled it. And now federal law enforcement is cleaning it up. It's not complicated. Look, you don't have to like it. You can defend murderers, drug dealers, and child rapists all you want. Just understand that if you don't stay out of the way, there will be consequences. And me personally, I'd like to send a message to all the ICE agents out there putting in long hours and dealing with dangerous situations and the antics from radicals on the streets attempting to obstruct and impede them every step of the way. I salute you, and I stand by you. Thank you for your selfless dedication to this great nation. You are loved and cared about more than you know. And if you stand with ICE, let me know your thoughts in the comments.
And so you see, chaos in sanctuary cities stems from local leaders prioritizing performative resistance over public safety. When jurisdictions refuse to cooperate with federal immigration enforcement, blocking ICE access to jails, shielding criminal aliens, and inciting protests, they force ICE operations into public spaces, escalating risks for officers and communities. The $150 billion annual cost of illegal immigration isn't theoretical. It's a direct result of sanctuary policies enabling repeat offenders. Enforcement isn't the problem. Defiance of federal law is. But if you're mad at ICE, be mad at these two morons for letting 20 million unvetted illegals into the country. In cities where local leaders work with ICE, operations proceed without riots or grandstanding. But when mayors like Jacob Frey declare war on federal agents, they create the very chaos they blame on ICE. Lawful enforcement isn't optional. It's the foundation of national sovereignty. Listen to a Democrat actually explain it right and logically, which makes him anything but a Democrat, but the truth is in his words. Senator John Fetterman delivers a message that every single one of his Democrat colleagues should hear and says, and I quote, "Round up all criminals, deport them, they have to go." As a Democrat, it should not be unreasonable to want to secure our border. It's common sense.
And Brett, just moments ago, DHS released yet another worst of the worst list of criminal illegal aliens arrested by ICE right here in Minneapolis yesterday alone. They include a convicted murderer from Vietnam, a man from the Marshall Islands with 24 separate criminal convictions, and multiple convicted drug traffickers. We'll send it back to you.
And I don't care if Ilhan Omar wants to stand up there at that podium and lie to reporters, other Democrats, and herself, all just to protect herself and her Somali welfare fraud scam empire she's used to build up her net worth from a negative to over $30 million while married to the white man she says we should all fear. This, yes, but only after getting a divorce from her husband, of course. But isn't it funny how this Somali made the ultimate come up with her Pelosi 2.0 little Mogadishu daycare center scams and instead of stocks? And notice how all the Democratic socialists, they always end up as multimillionaires. Yeah, funny how that happens, right? Meanwhile, House Feds probe to unravel mystery of Squad Representative Ilhan Omar's skyrocketing wealth, they say is not possible. But the truth is apparent and obvious. No American wants these criminal illegal aliens as neighbors. These are the criminals Governor Walz and Mayor Frey are protecting, the worst of the worst arrested by ICE. And no American wants these criminals as neighbors. Well, no real American, and therefore, for the most part, I feel like at this point, if you are a leftist, liberal, progressive, and a Democrat, unlike the soon-to-be independent or Republican MAGA rising stars such as Senator John Fetterman, but for all the other proud America Last Democrats like J.B. Pritzker, they are not real Americans.
With the governor's signature, nearly 2.2 million people are now eligible to have their criminal records sealed in what it hopes opens up opportunities for those looking for a second chance. It's official. The Clean Slate Act is law, which means law enforcement agencies are now required to automatically seal eligible criminal records every 6 months, and eliminating the need for individuals with prior convictions to navigate lengthy court procedures.
And this here is going to change my life completely.
Bernita Davenport McWhite says her criminal record has kept her from finding places to live, even though she's done her time.
I was able to find a private landlord that was willing to sit down and have a conversation regarding my background to really get to know me.
Now she awaits getting her own record sealed as she continues to advocate for people like her, finding support from state leaders.
They deserve a track to run on. And the story of that humanity, the idea that people have to audition for their humanity has to stop.
The law does exclude convictions for sexual violence against minors, DUIs, reckless driving, cruelty to animals, and serious violent crimes, including anything that would qualify for sex offender registration. Still, the state believes the law will play a critical role on the economy.
This law will unlock $4.7 billion in lost wages. And this law reduces crime. Study after study tells us that when formerly incarcerated individuals have access to resources, jobs and housing and education, recidivism rates go down significantly.
It actually can move me one step forward. I could probably go back and get to my field that I wanted to get in.
For Julian Sims, that means a chance to follow his dreams of becoming an electrician and turning the page to a new life chapter.
It made me want to cry and jump for joy.
Those eligible can have their criminal records automatically sealed beginning in 2031. In the Loop, Jasmine Miner, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
And my word, man alive, and as I live and breathe, and so now criminals can apply for jobs that criminals shouldn't have. How could this miss? Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker just signed the Clean Slate Act, automatically sealing millions of criminal records, and they're wiping theft, drug, and disorderly conduct convictions and calling it justice. Let me say that again. I want to make sure this sinks in, folks. Illinois Democrat Governor J.B. Pritzker signed into law the Clean Slate Act. Law enforcement agencies are now required to automatically seal eligible criminal records every 6 months. Criminals are now free to steal and commit crimes, and their convictions will be sealed. With the governor's signature, nearly 2.2 million people are now eligible to have their criminal records sealed. This law, effective June 1, 2026, but non-violent misdemeanors and lower-level felonies, for example, includes many drug possessions, theft, or disorderly conduct cases after waiting periods will be sealed. And, of course, every crime will be labeled as such, I'm sure, incorrectly. However, waiting periods are as follows. Most misdemeanor convictions eligible after 2 years post-sentence. Non-violent felony convictions eligible after 3 years post-sentence. Petty offenses and ordinance violations sealed biannually, January 1 and July 1, which marks 6 months, folks. And this all also covers dismissed and reversed charges and arrests. But hey, you know what they say. If you have to cheat to win, you're still a f***ing loser.
It for your audience perfectly, Sean. This was not a loophole. The Biden administration, Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, devised a scheme to fly illegal aliens into the country and then to escort them en masse across the border by the millions, and to give them something known as parole, which gives them a work permit, which gives them a social security number, which gives them access to the voting booth. This was the plan all along, to get them here illegally so they can get free government benefits, get hooked to welfare, and be able to participate in American elections. This was an attack on democracy by the Democrat Party. It's the same attack that we see, Sean, when you have California, a sanctuary state, that is refusing to turn over even illegal alien criminals and gang members to ICE. So these are illegal aliens in California who have been arrested by California police, by California law enforcement for serious crimes, for crimes against children, for felonies, for crimes that threaten public safety, and they are refusing to hand these criminal illegal aliens over to ICE. Instead, they're freeing them back into the cities to offend and offend again. By any definition, what California is doing is criminal. It is a violation of our laws. It is one of the most heinous things that I have seen in my entire...
California, Illinois, Minnesota is criminal. It is disgusting. It is un-American.
This is just a question for all my actual American-born citizens who actually love the country out there. Are you guys also sick and tired of seeing people like Representative Shri Thanador and Ilan Omar talking about what they want for the American people as if they were one of us? Shut the up.
I actually said this, and you know, I could talk to you all night about the dumb stuff you say. You voted against the bill mandating the deportation of illegal immigrants convicted of sex crimes. Can you explain that to me?
Well, look, anybody who breaks U.S. laws, an immigrant that breaks U.S. laws, should be deported. Anyone that commits
That's not what you said.
Should be deported.
Sir, you voted against a bill that mandated the deportation of illegals convicted of sex crimes. Do you regret that vote now?
No, I don't regret that vote. Look, no bill is perfect, and many times...
What if it was your wife, your sister, your daughter that was raped? That's a sex crime. You want that person to stay?
Look, there are multiple things in a bill. I don't agree with every one of them.
Sir, you got to answer the question. If your wife, your daughter, your girlfriend, mother was raped by an illegal immigrant, you voted against a bill that would deport these illegals convicted of sex crimes. You're perfectly fine if they stay in the country.
Sean, look, I serve in Congress. I don't think you ever served in Congress. That's what you voted on, though, right? Most of the bills. Look,
Why
most
did you
of these
vote
bills
for that?
are not perfect
Why
bills.
did you vote for that? Why would you allow sex crime convicts to stay in the country that entered the country illegally? Why would you vote for that?
it was not, the bill did not just include that issue. There were other things in the bill. And so I cannot pick and choose. I don't have a veto where I can strike out one portion of a bill.
You would have voted against it otherwise? What was the big provision that prevented you from kicking these people out of our country?
Look, I don't memorize. I vote on thousands of bills.
I don't memorize. You don't know anything.
But look, I do believe that such criminals must be deported. There is no doubt about it.
Well, you voted against it. So obviously you don't.
I
got another question for you. In the first case in Minneapolis where...
But no, I couldn't spend all night talking to this criminal. But this has got to be, this is one of the most insane interviews I've ever watched. How did this man get elected to office when he can, A, barely speak English, and 2, is accused of abandoning over 100 beagles to starve to death? Can't articulate a single reason why he voted for anything. How is this even possible? Representative Sri Thanadar, Democrat out of Michigan, I think it's Michigan, is still just sitting here getting blasted by Hannity and struggling to justify his vote against the 2023 bill mandating deportation of illegal immigrants convicted of sex crimes, emphasizing his evasive responses about imperfect legislation. The Democrats are absolutely abhorrent. Every single Democrat.
Every single Democrat voted against the working families tax cut. Every single Democrat voted to raise all Americans' taxes. I don't know why we aren't covering that. Every single Democrat voted to raise Americans' taxes. Could we cover that a little bit?
Well, almost every Democrat, but the fact that no Democrat stood up and clapped when a kid with brain cancer became a special honorary member, an agent of the United States Secret Service, tells you everything you need to know. However, I must add a bit of a disclaimer because John Fetterman is in a bit of a category of all of his own. And it isn't just me who feels this way either. And tell me, how many of you watch or subscribe to George or Be Hizzy?
But, I would rather just be very honest and just kind of play it straight. I happen to believe that things are true and it's really a reasonable thing. And now increasingly that's getting more and more difficult.
Did you stand to honor those families?
I did not stand because the president.
You sat on your ass.
I was just sick of the president.
So I want to be clear.
I did not.
You sat on your ass and you wouldn't stand for families.
He's precisely the kind of Democrat Fetterman is talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, if every Democrat was like John Fetterman, we wouldn't have these problems. Fetterman is a really important voice right now for common sense, which is something I never thought I'd say. I remember roasting this guy for having a golf ball on his neck while running for Senate in Pennsylvania. Never in a million years did I think I would be sitting here appreciating what he's doing, which is consistently calling out his own side and exposing all these bad actors. From Ilhan Omar to Tim Walz to AOC, Fetterman has smoke for all of them, specifically their line of attack against ICE. Ilhan Omar has been attacking ICE.
We want ICE out of our district. We want them out of our state. We want this terror to stop.
Tim Walz.
Establish and if you see these ICE agents in your neighborhood, take out that phone and hit record.
Someone tell Tim how to solve an echo. And this disgusting soy boy, Jacob Frey, fried chicken, whatever.
And we're in a position right now where we have residents that are asking the very limited number of police officers that we have to fight ICE agents on the street, to stand by their neighbors.
He went on Fox News and this segment was legendary. He exposed what Democrats did to cities like Minneapolis.
And so you see, what the Democrats did to Minneapolis is the precise blood-chilling kill shot to the republic they've been cooking up all along. But so you see, Democrats aren't just screwing up cities, they are waging ruthless demographic warfare to eradicate the American voter too, or more so than anything else, besides stealing our money and getting filthy rich in the process. But they flood the gates with a massive dependent underclass imported straight from chaos, hooked on welfare, rigged to outvote hardworking, tax-paying, patriotic Americans. Meanwhile, parole acts as the legal fiction to legitimize this invasion. It's the sneaky legal scam that legitimizes this full-scale invasion, handing out Social Security numbers like free candy. That's the diabolical switcheroo. Well, that and what Chuck Schumer says here.
If you look at the budget actually we're working on right now, and we'll have the T-HUD budget, transportation and HUD budget, we restore most of the cuts and even go higher than previous years on many of the programs that DOJ slashed. When I met our nominee for HUD secretary, then he was nominee, he talked a nice game, but he doesn't seem to have the clout to make those views prevail over the DOJ people, over the cut people. But we have worked really hard in the budget and gotten bipartisan support to increase these amounts and undo a lot of the cuts, which are essential.
However, replacing real Americans with imported votes to lock in a permanent Marxist one-party tyranny and then freeload them all with SNAP food benefits is diabolical.
All the red states sent us their data to help figure out what that looked like. We found 200,000 dead people or people using dead people's Social Security numbers. We found 500,000 people getting more than 2 times what they should have, getting those benefits twice. We found some guy getting benefits in 5 states. And Maria, this is just the red states. I mean, the red states normally have a smaller program, tighter accountability and control. The blue states sued us, and so we're in another active litigation on that. They don't want California, New York, they don't want to turn their data over so that we can help them root out the fraud. And then the Minnesota piece, of course, which we've all been covering, is remarkable. So we are in court. We're going to work really hard to make sure we're protecting the American taxpayer and the people who actually need these programs.
But I digress, as I want to point your attention south. And yes, folks, the border stays wide open when Dems are in office because these traitors desperately need those bodies to cling to power like parasites. Minneapolis is effectively ground zero of the nightmare right now, with Somali enclaves exploding, crime skyrocketing, riots torching the streets, all engineered by Dems to flip a proud Midwestern gem into a blue hellhole forever. Senator Fetterman finally cracked, calling out the extreme insanity on Fox, but we all know this is straight up treason against every freedom-loving citizen. Democrats aren't governing, they're conquering through replacement. This isn't just a theory either. It's time to wake up America before it's too late. Please share this out in hopes of the algorithm catching hold of this and sending it nuclear, going viral. I want the whole world to know that we know what's going on, and we are going to put a stop to it.
We're so grateful for the partnership of Secretary Best and the Trump administration. So he started a new program where they're going to limit cash out to $2,000 a person, which is going to be a dramatic change for a lot of people. And they're also going to be geo-tracking all the cash that's leaving the Hennepin County or Ramsey County, which is where, a lot of this population lives. And so that will really help, because before they hadn't been tracking where the money went. And once it got to Dubai, they assumed, it was hard to track because it was going through the Hawala network.
Do you think Walz knew, or is he just an idiot?
It's been so widely reported, there's no way he couldn't have known. It's been known since his first year in 2019. There was an OLA report at that time that thought there would maybe be $100 million in child care fraud and talked about the ties to terrorism, and that whistleblower was ignored and hounded, actually retaliated against. So everyone's been willfully turning a blind eye in the Walz administration.
So he knew about it.
There's no way he didn't know about it, but he was in on it. But I would love for someone to try and convince me otherwise. Do you see the pattern here? 2003 to 2016, Democrats fund ICE. 2017 to 2020, Democrats denounce ICE. 2021, Democrats fund ICE again. 2022 to 2024, Democrats break funding records for ICE. But now, 2025, Democrats denounce ICE. You literally can't make this shit up. The Democrats don't know what they really believe. Besides, they are indoctrinated to believe they must hate Trump and in turn America and themselves, really. As I've received countless messages from people just like you who watch my show regularly about how 2 women brought babies to the ICE riots last night, but both babies ended up at the hospital because they inhaled tear gas. That's not on ICE. That's on the 2 idiots that brought babies to a riot. 2 dumb-ass Democrats, but that really should be considered child abuse. But Democrat judges, prosecutors, DAs, and AGs turn their blind eye all the time. Oh, and get this. During the elections, ChatGPT was even programmed to convince users to vote for Kamala Harris, but refused to convince voters or users to vote for Donald Trump. OpenAI should be investigated for election fraud, but I feel like Altman and OpenAI are about to suffer an even larger defeat right now after Elon Musk slaughters them soon.
For years, Sam had made it really difficult for the board to actually do that job by, withholding information, misrepresenting things that were happening at the company, in some cases outright lying to the board. At this point, everyone always says, like what? Give me some examples. And I can't share all the examples, but to give a sense of sort of the kind of thing that I'm talking about, it's things like, when ChatGPT came out, November 2022, the board was not informed in advance about that. We learned about ChatGPT on Twitter. Sam didn't inform the board that he owned the OpenAI startup fund, even though he, constantly was claiming to be an independent board member with no financial interest in the company. On multiple occasions, he gave us inaccurate information about the small number of formal safety processes that the company did have in place, meaning that it was, basically impossible for the board to know how well those safety processes were working or what might need to change. And then, a last example that I can share, because it's been very widely reported, relates to this paper that I wrote, which has been, I think, way overplayed in the press. The problem was that after the paper came out, Sam started lying to other board members in order to try and push me off the board. So it was another example that just really damaged our ability to trust him, and actually only happened in late October last year when we were already talking pretty seriously about whether we needed to fire him. And so, there's more individual examples, and for any individual case, Sam could always come up with some kind of innocuous sounding explanation of why it wasn't a big deal or misinterpreted or whatever. But the end effect was that after years of this kind of thing, all 4 of us who fired him came to the conclusion that we just couldn't believe things that Sam was telling us. And that's a completely unworkable place to be in as a board, especially a board that is supposed to be providing independent oversight over the company, not just helping the CEO to raise more money.
So stay tuned for all the latest on that. But the Dems' backs are up against the ropes, and their last attempt is to try and pull out all the stops. And this means they will ratchet up the rhetoric and violence and turn it up to 11. And so you see, this is not hyperbole. This is not speculation. This is a clear and present danger assessment based on the historical pattern, the psychological warfare playbook, and the raw evidence unfolding in real time as we sit here on January 18, 2026. But ladies and gentlemen, the Democrats' backs are up against the ropes. Their multi-year, multi-pronged assault on Donald J. Trump smears via fabricated fake news narratives, 2 impeachments, deplatforming from social media, and he's not the only one who was previously banned and removed from Twitter. Thank God Elon bought that. Attempts then to bankrupt him, and through weaponized civil judgments, Letitia James and the sort, Fonnie Willis, oh Lord, Fonnie, efforts to jail him via stacked indictments and trial schemes to remove him from ballots, and yes, even the escalation to assassination attempts, plural, have all failed spectacularly. Trump won in 2024. He's back in the White House. MAGA is ascendant. The establishment left is cornered, desperate, and out of conventional options. So, what do cornered animals do? They lash out. They ratchet up the rhetoric to maximum volume. For instance, January 6th. And what occurred for just 2 hours, Democrats and the media hyped up for years. However, what's been going on in Minneapolis and Minnesota has been going on for months, and there's no talk about it whatsoever. They lash out. They ratchet up the rhetoric to maximum volume. They turn the violence dial up to 11. This isn't new. It's the final stage in the psychopolitical escalation, one that I shared previously, but that video was taken down after I included a clip of Andrew Tate, who so astutely synthesized in his viral November 2024 clip how after every other tactic crumbles, the desperate resort to the ultimate: elimination. But now, post-election, with Trump in power, the left's playbook shifts from direct attacks on him to broader retaliatory lawfare, incitement, and stochastic terrorism against his administration, supporters, and the American system itself. I mean, just look at the receipts. Straight from the timeline, we have fiscal ruin attempts. Basically, they try to bankrupt him. Documented in real time, past events exposing the coordinated setup by radical prosecutors like Letitia James and Alvin Bragg. And now this bombshell drops, using Michael Cohen's coerced testimony to pile on hundreds of millions in penalties. But Trump shared this post yesterday that reads, "These horrible radical left people doing everything possible to destroy our country should pay a big price for this. It was a setup from the beginning. New York courts with many fair and wonderful judges are embarrassed by what has happened. We cannot let this pass." After Michael Cohen says he was coerced by Letitia James and Alvin Bragg to turn on Trump. But wait, there's more. Carceral threats, where Democrats openly calling for mass prosecutions and the Dem Supreme Court packing to jail Trump and Republicans in national reconciliation through prison.
I really worry about that Trump is looking for this kind of pandemonium to go on, like you just described, so that he could declare martial law or something, and also cancel the midterms.
Well, under martial law, you won't have elections.
Yeah.
That's what she's saying. But listen,
because he's worried. He even said,
administer
if
the
the
elections in
Democrats
this country
take Congress next time, I will be impeached, which means that he could be convicted and sent to jail. He does not want that to happen.
But Vice President J.D. Vance called it out perfectly and says,
"Give more power to the person who put the fire out."
If the Democrats do win the midterms, is Trump getting impeached again?
I'm sure he'll get impeached. Look, they have nothing to actually run on or govern on. Their entire obsessive focus of that party is they hate Donald Trump. So if they ever get power, are they going to lower Americans' taxes? No. Are they going to make your life more affordable? No. Are they going to solve the crime crisis? No. What they're going to do is they're going to spend all their time and all of your money trying to get Donald Trump. I think it's ridiculous. That's what they're running on. But the American people are going to make this determination. I think the American people should vote for the people who want to make their life more affordable and want to make their neighborhoods safer. That's what we're trying to deliver every single day.
Have you been watching this New York Mayor Mondani guy?
The guy who wants...
Because, simply put, Dems have zero to run on or govern with. They won't cut taxes. They won't make life affordable. They won't fix the crime crisis. Their only obsession is, with all their hearts and living rent-free in their woke minds, hating Donald Trump. All they do with power is waste yours and my money chasing Trump. It's ridiculous. Elon Musk, he is right. And he says America will die without secure elections. And as a former Democrat voter, Matt Van Swole says that he is totally lost here. Are you telling me that the current Democratic platform is now pro-fraud and pro-wasteful spending, anti-transparency, pro-discrimination, pro-war? Yeah, I don't know how we got here either. What the hell happened? It all boils down, circles back around to hating Donald Trump. All they'll do with their power is waste yours and my money chasing Trump. It's ridiculous. Americans need to vote for the side actually delivering safer neighborhoods and lower costs. But lastly, we move on to Act 3, the lethal escalation. And with the 2 documented assassination attempts in 2024 proving to any logical thinking human being that they weren't anomalies, they were the climax of heated rhetoric like bullseye and threat to democracy that talk that fueled real-world shooters. And now they're going to the extreme yet again.
U.S. officials are closely monitoring developments in Iran on what is a Muslim holy day of prayer. A senior hardline Iranian cleric is imploring the regime to follow through with executions of detained demonstrators. Here's senior foreign affairs correspondent Greg Palcott.
Iranian leaders capping off their deadly crackdown against anti-regime protesters with a new warning today. An appointee of the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei at Friday prayers in Tehran declaring armed hypocrites should be put to death, also branding the protesters Trump's soldiers. The death toll from the regime's brutal response nearing 2,800, according to a U.S.-based human rights group. Eyewitnesses from Iran say the security forces' gunfire was strong.
They were heavy weapons, heavy machine guns. I heard a lot of it.
Along with those killed, many more injured, and according to the government, 3,000 arrested. While only scattered protests were reported today, the regime's internet blackout inside the country remains in place, causing others outside to root them on, including the son of the late deposed Shah of Iran.
The people of Iran have reason to reclaim their country. History will honor those who stand with them,
including the Trump administration, which, according to Fox News sources, is moving military assets closer to the region. Still, while these protests are called the strongest since the Islamic Republic's founding, so far at least, there are no major cracks in the hardline rule of the country.
At best, what would come of this is we put the Iran regime on a pathway to its collapse. That's at best.
As for Israel, a military spokesperson saying today its army is prepared, quote, both defensively and offensively if the U.S. were to strike Iran.
And yes, armed forces are being moved closer to the region. The Minnesota National Guard have been mobilized and are staging to support local law enforcement and emergency management agencies. And you can see here the National Guard is rolling into Minnesota since the police aren't helping to control the danger. It's time to invoke the Insurrection Act, but it doesn't stop there. Fake news hoaxes, big tech bans, ballot sabotage through eroded voter ID laws. Hello, driver's licenses for illegals in blue states like Minnesota under Tim Walz, allowing attestation for multiple unverified voters, and Elon Musk himself exposing AI bias in election interference. But now, circle it all back to the hypocritical core, illegal immigration as their demographic power grab. They weaponize undocumented influxes to dilute sovereignty and clutch electoral power, while clutching their pearls over humanity, as we saw and talked about yesterday in my last show or previously uploaded podcast, the contrast Obama's era of ICE raids, as CNN literally rode along praising deportations with their current obstruction and vilification of Trump's enforcement. Pure double standards. Fast forward to today, but with their backs against the ropes, Democrats are already signaling long-term lawfare campaigns, pushing for more Supreme Court seats to overturn immunity, promising retaliation against conservatives and their unhinged base, demanding blood, urging lawmakers to get shot in resistance and agitating for violence against ICE, Trump officials, and anyone enforcing the law. Hell, there's even an attorney now going out trying to sue conservative voices just to make the legal process too expensive for them to want to speak up. Democrats and illegal voters screaming for confrontation, lawmakers warning of blood in the streets and threats of political persecution if they regain power. They're putting it all out in the open. They're not even shy about it, folks.
The blue tsunami means that Congress is going to
haul Elon Musk, big balls, and a bunch of other people's ass in front and say, what crimes did you commit? And it's going to get really serious. And the same with Trump, because I believe, and this is just my opinion, that Trump and all of the bottom-feeding morons surrounding him and Elon Musk and all the bottom-feeding Klingeroners that surround him, I think they commit crimes every day. And I think to reconcile all of this is going to take hardcore, not integrity Democrats. F you Democrats. Fuck you for fucking over our country. We are serious about this. We are prosecuting. We're going to uncover every document, every phone call, everything you did. We will be relentless about it. And that's the mindset they've got to have, because I think the electorate is going from, we've got to get him out, but also we want accountability.
There has to be accountability. You have to have a situation where there's accountability. And I talked about this the other day with Fetterman, the former MPD police officer who almost got killed on January 6th. You know, he said, and I think it's true, that it's more than just the Dems win back the Congress and the White House. We have to change this John Roberts Supreme Court decision that gave the President of the United States a blank check. No man or woman should be above the law in this country. And Donald Trump sure as shit should not be above the law in this country. And I think the Democrats have to talk about it in these terms, that, listen, if we get back in there, and I'm not saying I'm part of the Democratic Party, but I'm saying that this is the way the Democrats should communicate. They should say when they're back in there, if you guys are going to cling to this idea that Donald Trump is unaccountable, it's just not going to work. And that means adding seats to the Supreme Court so that immunity decision can be overturned. And so Donald Trump can be held accountable for his crime.
I just wonder if ever in my lifetime will I see a man or woman hated more by Democrats than they hate Donald Trump. But speaking of bottom-feeding morons, elections have consequences. Elections have consequences. And so you see Abigail Spanberger here, and her first act as governor of Virginia is to repeal Glenn Youngkin's executive order that mandated state and local law enforcement cooperate with immigration enforcement.
And this executive order rescinds executive order number 47. State and local law enforcement should not be required to divert their limited resources to enforce federal civil immigration laws. It is a responsibility of federal law enforcement. Virginia state and local law enforcement officers must be able to focus on their core responsibilities, investigating crime and community policing.
Absolutely unreal. The evil is jaw-dropping, but this is the ratcheting up. This is them, the Dems, the party of hate and overall death to America, turning it up to 11. Inflamed rhetoric leading to stochastic violence, doxing, death threats, forcing Trump appointees into military housing, and a base frothing for chaos ahead of 2026 midterms. Please, wake up your friends, your family, and neighbors if they aren't already. Stay vigilant, everyone. Document everything. Call out the hypocrisy. Support law enforcement and the enforcement of the law. Reject the gaslighting. We must mobilize and vote in every election, audit the process, and demand accountability. The left wants division and disorder because they thrive in chaos. We win with truth, law, and American resolve. They thought that they could stop one man from making America great again. They failed. Now they're desperate and are hell-bent on doing anything they can to drag the country down with them. This is the fight. Stay informed, stay engaged. America prevails when we, the people, stand firm, and stand firm we shall.
In Minnesota. What happened in Minnesota? We had 6 prosecutors who suddenly decided they didn't want to support the men and women in ICE. One of them was busy doing a photo shoot with the New York Times while ICE was out there risking their lives. So they came, they said, we want to resign, but we want to use our annual leave up until April, meaning they wanted the taxpayers to pay for them to go on vacation because they decided they didn't want to support law enforcement. So the breaking news tonight, I fired them all. They're fired from the office. And our U.S. attorney there, Rosen, he's great. He was just confirmed 3 months.
I know it isn't earth-shattering or groundbreaking, but it is a start for Pam, right? I mean, and on top of that, the DOJ's subpoenas for Walz and Frey are a necessary step to uphold federal authority, which is underway. But so you see, when state leaders obstruct ICE operations like Minnesota's refusal to cooperate with law enforcement, they endanger public safety and undermine the rule of law. The 10th Amendment doesn't grant governors veto power over immigration and enforcement, and Walz's lawsuit against federal agents was pure political theater. Ladies and gentlemen, Minneapolis became a battleground because local officials prioritized performative resistance over protecting their own citizens. Let's be clear, ICE is executing warrants against criminal violators, not conducting racist sweeps. The chaos, vandalism, and attacks on federal personnel are direct results of this obstruction. If state houses won't enforce the law, they shouldn't cry when accountability then arrives. Not to mention, AG Pam Bondi reveals she fired 6 DOJ prosecutors in Minnesota because they no longer supported ICE and demanded taxpayers pay for a vacation. I fired them all, she said. They're all fired from the office, and good riddance. The DOJ is moving quick, and we are beyond a criminal referral. It's likely that indictments are coming soon. Tim Walz, Jacob Frey, Ilhan Omar, they are sweating bullets, looking like they've just seen a ghost because what they feared most is coming next. And there's nothing much left for them to do to stop it. They brought the fight to their own doorstep, and now they're about to get punched in the mouth, figuratively speaking. But stay tuned and stick with me, folks, as we dive deeper into this implosion, unfolding day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute, because the show's just getting started. Grab your popcorn, and thank you for taking the time to sit and talk with me here today, and please stay safe out there. Until next time, let's keep up the fight and America first. I hope y'all have a good day, great night, and God bless.